Hello and welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Fara Sachs. I am so privileged today to have as my guest Jennifer Warren Medwin. She is a divorce coach and mediator. Her practice, Seeking Empowerment Clarity Through Partnership, is located right here in our community of Pinecrest. She is also the author of Strategies and Tips for a Divorce Coach, a roadmap to move forward. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So let's back up a little bit. How does one go from where we are? You wrote this beautiful book that I read in like one sitting, and just I think you need to read it once for the head and the other for the heart the second time around. So I was making notes but the second time around it really hit me, so many nuances that you provide for the community that are dealing with this, whether they're thinking about it or have made their decision. But what does your journey look like? How does that start for you in this arena of divorce or maybe reconciliation?
Good question. So I went through the divorce process 8 years ago. And when I went through the process, I was a voracious reader. And so many of the books that I picked up were very intimidating. They were all written in legalese. And, when you're already fearful and full of emotion, it's very hard to focus on how to move forward. And so that was the impetus for me wanting to write a book. And I had started writing for different publications, and friends kept saying, put it all together, put it all together. And COVID was the impetus for me to really get started. And so I wrote the book during COVID.
And it's interesting that COVID had so many negative and sad, stories. But at the same time, those that have moved forward in that and we're able to see this as an opportunity for growth. And I think what you're doing when people are moving forward in divorce, it's also that growth. And how can we put our best foot forward in a situation that might not be totally great? We might not feel totally well, emotionally, financially. So how long did it take you to write that book? It's a wonderful book.
Thank you. It took me really about 2.5 years from start to finish. And I want to say something that you mentioned. It's about perspective and about having awareness and about really being in the present moment and realizing that there are messages in every single mess. And the word mess is in the word message. And it's up to us to look for those messages. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but the only way to change is through passing through that comfort zone, feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Absolutely. I love that acronym. It's, and you write about so much, you're so much more than your divorce.
You are.
And with endings come the possibility of beautiful beginnings.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I am in the most healthy state probably of my life. And, there was a lot of learning that went through the process. And one of the reasons I created this book is because I wanted people to have a user-friendly guide that would really take them from the should I, shouldn't I stage, meaning I'm thinking about divorce. I'm not sure that I want to get divorced. And if I do, how do I go through the process? What process do I use? There are many different ways of dissolving your marriage.
So let's speak to those and what, where you center your energy and what your beliefs are on that.
So I believe that divorces are like snowflakes. No two are the same. And when you decide that divorce is the answer, you have many different people in your ear. And you tend to want to lawyer up very quickly. And in my practice, I find that that's a very big mistake. I think, ignorance is not bliss. The divorce process is like learning a new language. And there are many tentacles to it. And there are ways that are better for certain people and certain dynamics of a family than others. whether it's, you do the collaborative route or mediation
Why don't you
or
talk about those?
traditional litigation.
Can you talk about each of those so our audience will understand the definitive difference between them?
We can definitely touch upon them, but in no means, I am not a lawyer.
Right.
And I can give you little snippets. So in the state of Florida, if you have any conflict, right, and you want to move forward, you must go through mediation prior to ever going in front of a judge, okay, unless there is an emergency, okay? And so mediation is always on the table if even you want to go through that route where you have one non-judgmental person and we try to work out a settlement, basically. That's mediation, okay? In a very, that's just very, the collaborative process is basically you do have attorneys who follow that collaborative process. You agree never, ever to enter court, okay? So if during the course of the negotiation things fall apart, you have to start all over again with new legal counsel and a new team. And usually on that team you have a neutral accountant, you have your attorneys, and you also have either a divorce coach or another mental health practitioner, okay? And I really like the collaborative process. I am trained in the collaborative process, and I believe even the highest conflict cases can be resolved through collaboration.
And it's very interesting because you're a divorce coach. Let's talk about the differences between a divorce coach and why you would hire you as well as the other team members to really help one elevate them and lift them during this time.
So it's a great question. I just want to make sure that people understand so they can do mediation and collaboration and traditional litigation. So they have multiple choices.
And it's not a one-size-fit-all, like you said.
Not
it's really, like you said, that snowflake where everybody's different, every situation is different, every relationship between families and partners are different.
Yes, and that's why I love it when individuals come to me in that should I, shouldn't I stage, because I help them put together their professional team, right? Because I learn about what their values are, what their personality is. Do they need someone with a good bedside manner? Is someone who's abrasive better for them? I mean, everybody has different
I can't
needs.
imagine why anybody would want to go to an abrasive person at this at this very tender time in one's life.
Because they want it for the other side. They want that person to be abrasive and to be strong and dominant. And what people don't realize is that if the person you hire is abrasive, for example, with the other side, what leads you to think they're not going to be abrasive with you? So all these people who go and lawyer up with the sharks or the bulls, they call them, and then they're taken aback because, the legal counsel speaks to them in a manner they feel less than, or they don't get back to them, or they don't feel like they have a seat at the table. It's no wonder, right? So helping to educate my clients prior to having them hire the people who are going to make up their team is really key. But in terms of what I do as a divorce coach, so I meet people right where they are. Many clients come to me in the should I, shouldn't I stage, right? Because the average person contemplates divorce 4 years prior to filing.
4 years prior to filing.
4 years,
So
the average.
And what are some of the things what kind of feedback do you get? Like, what is some of the questions that are asked during that time, during that, should I, shouldn't I stage? And for our audience to maybe you're not alone. Maybe you're not alone in this process.
Well, I can guarantee you that you are not alone. Being alone is a choice, right? And human beings, we all only have two choices. And that is we are victims of our situation or we're creators. And that's not to say that we don't feel badly about something that has transpired in our lives, and yet the choice to stay in victimhood is up to us, okay? So when people come to me, it depends on whether they are the ones who want it or the ones who don't and want to see if they can work it out. Usually the ones who want it, like I said, have been contemplating it for 4 years, and it ranges. They may have a significant other They just may feel that there is no intimacy and no friendship left. I mean, there are a variety of reasons. And why I do marital mediation is because, sometimes parties decide, okay, divorce is definitely on the table, but we want to put it on the bookshelf and work on our relationship for a period. We usually do it for about a period of 6 months. And I'm not a therapist.
Nor do you play one on TV,
Nor,
right?
nor do I play one on TV. I meet the clients where they are in the present moment, and we work towards what their goals are and how to get them there.
So you work on the goals, you work on helping them with a team.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you do as a divorce coach?
So we wear many hats. So I help them organize for the process.
It almost seems like it's a concierge service because you're really helping them find those pieces that need to be put into place. Like you said, that snowflakes, it's really individualized in what you do. So it's really, you're able to pull that team on a concierge level because this person needs that and that might need a little more tweaking. So it really is. So and you've walked the walk.
I've walked the walk. And I have walked the walk, which is great. But my walk is different than everybody else's. So I check my judgment, outside of my sessions and really focus on what my clients need. It's important to realize first that you asked me a question before about the coaching process. In 2013, the American Bar Association defined divorce coaching as the fourth element of the divorce process. And usually as you go through the process, you'll have an attorney, you'll have some type of financial advisor, and you'll also have a therapist. And now there's divorce coaches. And we work in partnership with everyone. And we actually benefit not only the client, but also the other professionals because we help our clients separate the emotional side from the business side of divorce. And when our clients are extremely emotional, that's when they make the biggest mistakes of divorce. So helping them acquire new skills and strategies to become more aware and become more present so that they can focus on solving their problems is what divorce coaches do best. I call it, in my book, I call it the 4 quadrants of divorce. And that means I separate divorce into 4 different categories. One is organizing for the process. And, it is daunting, the amount of financial documents you need and other documents that are requested for discovery. If you don't have a process by which you're organizing, it becomes very challenging. And there are a lot of different ways to organize for the process. And I talk about the different ways in my book. And then you have what we just spoke about, the emotional side. And, our emotions take over our thoughts. And during this process, it's really important, if you want to have a seat at the table, that you can really communicate effectively, learn how to manage conflict, because there tends to be conflict. Even in the best of situations, we don't always agree. How you speak to your soon-to-be ex either helps the situation or hurts the situation. And with our clients, we really want to help them keep everything moving forward, right? Taking those brave bites forward. Then there's the financial piece.
This is the third.
The third one is the financial piece. And, like I said before, there are many documents for the financial affidavit. The financial affidavit is a document that you have to present, which, tells your assets, your debts, your income, and expenses. And often one party doesn't really know what those are, and getting it all together can be overwhelming and create a real roller coaster. And the fourth is the legal piece. And you want to use your professionals for the experience they have, right? And, the attorneys are not there to hold your hand per se, emotionally. And clients tend to call or email their attorneys and pages and pages of why they're upset. Well, you're going to be charged. If your attorney is charging you $6.50 an hour and it takes them an hour to read all your emails, it adds up. Versus if you have a divorce coach we can synthesize it into what I call a BIF statement. I didn't create this statement, but I use it in my practice, which is something that's brief, informative, firm, and friendly. So 5 sentences, so that the attorney understands what's going on without all of the emotion attached to it.
Absolutely. And how long is a client with you in this process? Do they hire you as their coach?
So that's a really good question, and it varies. Some people just come to me for 1 or 2 sessions to help them put together their professional team. Some people just come to me in the should I, shouldn't I stage, and we work together for maybe a month or 2. I have other clients who are with me from should I, shouldn't I stage, all the way even through post-divorce. What is their life like now that the papers have been filed? You know, dating. I'm not a dating coach, but I do refer to
They have dating coaches?
Mm-hmm. They have dating coaches.
Jennifer, would you go out on a date with me? What is that? Or
They have
he might be very good for me.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, people who have been in long-term marriages for a long time, it's very scary to get out there and date again. I mean, I can say that as well. I've been in a relationship for a long time since I got divorced, but you know, those initial stages where you don't really remember, and then you have somebody who gives you some strategies and tips for dating, and there are a plethora of them.
It's interesting.
It is.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're in it, you really don't know. And then the form of reference of when you were 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, it's like different. You know, people are people, but you have to find your groove again, you know?
Yeah, and I have to say, you know, I'm glad that you said that. If you're not in it, you don't know. And recently, very recently, I had a close friend who, you know, while I was going through my own divorce process, everybody has their feeling of, you know, their what's going on and how you should do it. And she's in the process now of going through a divorce. And out of nowhere, she said to me, "I owe you an apology." And I said, "Why?" I mean, we didn't have any disagreement. And she said, "I didn't really understand. I didn't understand the slippery slope." And so I'm hoping one day soon to write another book about having to do with the outside in. Right?
Beautiful. What have you learned from your experience? You know, walking the walk, writing the book, having your own practice. What was the biggest takeaway for you as a woman in encountering other people that are processing their lives at the point that you go, aha, that was that aha moment. Oh, really? I'd never thought of it that way. That was probably one of your aha moments with your friend who said to you, I now understand. I owe you an apology. But what about for your own learning and growth?
So 2 words pop up for me. One is resiliency, that I am resilient, and we all are. And I frequently say to my clients, you have moved through every one of your challenges. And you know how I know that? Because you're here. You're here. And perhaps the bigger lesson is follow your truth, that your truth matters. And when you silence your inner whispers, you are only your own worst enemy.
So don't silence your little whispers, that little voice that goes, problem, Mayday.
Yes.
Why are you, I'm giving you all the information, right?
You know, and
that sometimes that's very hard to get to that truth and want to deal with it. You want to, like what you write in your book, it's beautiful. You say, whatever you resist will persist.
yes.
So
and
those little
does.
voices probably start getting a little louder, amplifying a little bit more. Why aren't you paying attention? But it probably eats and eats. I mean, we all
does.
probably have stuff that, you know, we silence or try to bury and cover. But eventually it does come out.
Yeah, you listen, we all have our inner critic, right? And we are constantly taking jabs at ourselves, right? We're constantly judging ourselves. we're constantly abandoning ourselves. Like when you're not listening to your own inner whispers, you're abandoning yourself, right? Then we blame ourselves and shame ourselves, jabs. And when we become more aware of them and we understand that we can move through them and that our truth matters and that we have resilience, we become more empowered. And by the way, in the word empower, the first two letters are EM. And if you turn them around, me. And the power is within all of us. And it doesn't matter what challenge it is, we're always a choice.
Absolutely. We always have that choice, and that is the beauty of life, and also some of the scary part of life, I would imagine. It is. I mean, it is.
Life is uncertain. And especially, when we were going through COVID, I kept hearing that word uncertainty. And if we stop and realize and really just be true to ourselves, every moment is uncertain. There is no certainty per se. And
as they say, what is it? Death and taxes are the only
yes,
things that
my father used to say that, except for death and taxes. My father used to say that for sure. And we sort of just have to lean into that uncertainty.
Talk about that lean. Talk about lean with me.
So lean is a framework I developed. Acronyms have always resonated with me and really, helped me keep my tools very close to my body.
There was a cartoon character, I don't know if you knew, Felix the cat.
Yeah,
and he
I know
would just
Felix.
Felix the cat, the wonderful, wonderful cat.
Uh-huh.
And he always had like things that he'd been able to pull out of his hat and tools
Yes.
and things that served him well to get out of situations or to get into situations. So these are toolboxes that we all need.
That's right. And we can have them on us. They're not tangible, but our brains are like computers. We can file it away and use it when we need to. So the lean framework has to do with learning to let things be. That's the L. So often people will say to you, just let it go. Let it go. Well, that's a setup. It's hard to let something go. It's almost impossible because it's there.
And you keep it. I'm going to let it go, but all I do is ruminate about it.
And then when you ruminate about it, you build up this resentment. Learning to let things be as they are is finding an acceptance, not an approval, but an acceptance. And if you work on it, if you practice it, I always say practice makes better. Not perfect, because there is no such thing as perfection.
Absolutely.
So learning to let things be. The E is for empowering yourself. Where can you be your own champion, right?
Yes.
And then acknowledgement, where you can understand that things are the way they are, acknowledge where your responsibility is in it, and then choose how to move forward. And then it's how you're nourishing yourself, because during times of uncertainty, when we're at a crossroads, we tend to either sleepwalk through life or become paralyzed with fear. And then there's no growth. And so, are you exercising? Are you sleeping well? Do you meditate? Are you listening to music? Whatever brings you joy. And, everybody has things that bring them joy if they really want to commit to feeling better. So that is the lean framework.
Wonderful. And it's a process. And it's not like I'm going to wake up one day and feel, I'm going to be just better. But you just move through each and every step of the way. And you're a hand holder also, I would imagine, on so many levels for your clients and potential clients. So if you have any questions, it's seekingempowerment.com. Jennifer's also available at 305-302-9777. I just wanted to give that out. We talked about some self-care strategies, and a lot of what I've heard in your book is very much Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. There are stages of dying, and I think divorce is a dying, a rebirth, a growth, a rejuvenation. And you talk about denial, you talk about bargaining. Let's just touch on those, because those are the emotional things I think for people to just really be able to work through so that they're clear and make the right choices for themselves, not to hasten, like you said. So let's touch on those.
So, for sure, they have likened divorce to a death, and in a lot of ways, it is. And with all death comes rebirth, and it's an opportunity for you to really do some self-reflection. And like death, the process of grieving is not linear, right? So you just don't go through denial, bargaining, acceptance, all in this, in a linear way. Some days you may wake up and you might feel, okay, it is what it is, and I can accept this. Other days you might feel like, okay, well, if I would just do this, maybe I could work things out, the bargaining part. And, with each stage, it's fluid, and it's important to understand that in time you will get through it. There's an expression, time takes time.
I've never heard that. That's beautiful.
And if you look back on some of your major challenges in life, well, number one, you move through them, right?
We're here.
You're here, right? And you may have scars. What have you gained from them? It's a matter of your mindset. And how do you shift? How do you shift towards that positive mindset, that grateful mindset, that attitude of gratitude? We talking about self-care, one of the things I introduce to my clients is something called GLAD. And it's not, again, this is not one of my frameworks, but it's
But it
very
is your
successful.
acronym.
Well,
Here
it
we
is an
go.
acronym because, I love those acronyms. Studies show that if, acronyms really help. They help you to remember what the tool is. So this is an acronym. I think it's great. So at night, when you're brushing your teeth is a habit. Okay, most people don't realize that, but it is. When you're brushing your teeth, studies show you're either forecasting the future or rehashing the past.
Isn't that interesting?
You're not in the present moment.
Oh.
Eckhart Tolle speaks about the nowness of the moment. So this technique really helps people be in the moment for the minute they're brushing their teeth. Okay. GLAD stands for one thing you're grateful for, one thing you learned during the day.
That's the L.
One thing that you can acknowledge about yourself.
That's the A.
And the last one is what you are determined to do the next day. Okay. So why this is important is most people do not focus on what they're grateful for. One thing, it could be that you just got out of bed in the morning. It doesn't have to be this monumental thing. Most people don't take the time to figure out what they learned that day. If you're not a student, which in school, we are all students of life, and there is something to be learned in each and every day. We don't acknowledge ourselves. As human beings, we don't really take the time to say, Jen, you did a great job today on X, Y, and Z. And that helps empower you. And that's what you need when you're going through the divorce process. And what are you going to do the next day? What intention can you make for yourself? And it helps you rise. It helps you get up. It helps you keep to making those brave bites forward. And I never say baby steps, by the way, right? Because babies have no control over themselves. So micro steps forward, brave bites forward.
Wonderful. And your book is available?
At Barnes & Noble and also on Amazon.
Absolutely. And if people want to reach you, you're located in Pinecrest?
I'm located in Pinecrest. I do in-person and also Zoom sessions, and they can reach me at my website.
Or seekingempowerment.com.
Yes.
What, in the couple of seconds we have left, what would you like our audience to know? What's the takeaway?
The takeaway is to honor yourself, to respect your inner whispers, and seek help, because it takes a village, and we are not islands in and of ourselves. And there are so many valuable resources for you when you are going through this process. And just be the good mother or good father to yourself.
And to yourself, and for yourself.
Yes.
Don't abandon that little child.
No.
Even
No.
during those little whispers.
Yes, and what we suppress gets expressed in other ways. And this is not something you have to do alone. There are many people who have gone through it who are willing to help.
And I appreciate you, and I'm sure our audience appreciates the time that we've had together and maybe learn something, a takeaway that they can be brave and that they can take the first step and listen to those little voices inside, those little whispers, as you say. Jennifer Warren Medwin, thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to have you back again to talk even more depth about this process and how we can help our community really come to terms with their own greatness and do the best for themselves and for their families. So thank you, and Hasameach.
Yes, Hasameya, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for the community.
Thank you
You're
so
an
much.
inspiration.
Thank you, and so are you. And I appreciate you being there and being here today, taking the time.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being here with us today. I'm Fara Sachs. Until next time, take care of yourself and others. We all need each other. Have a great day.